Bible says in Luke chapter 12, verse 42, the Lord said, Jesus, who then is that faithful and wise steward or manager whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Of a truth I say unto you that he will make him ruler over all that he hath. What a tremendous promise for a good manager. Hi, my name is Charles Vance, and I'm along with Chief Strategist Terry Sacka. He's over here fooling with all kinds of things.
Hey, they didn't see that.
Yeah, they saw
I was
your
looking
arm.
at the screen.
Caught your arm.
They didn't catch my arm, did
caught
they?
your arm. They'll run it back and catch it just to see it.
Oh, man,
We're
I'm
glad
sorry.
you're along. You're watching the wealth transfer.
Boy, he gives it to me if I step out of that frame line. Boy, he's like, hey, yeah, yes, he can see you. Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you joined us. We're here to talk about global economics, biblical principles, and how to protect and preserve your family's quality of life and future. And we've been on the Petrodollar for a little while. We're going to be on for a few more weeks. We're starting to get into the meat of what this Petrodollar counter relationship is all about and why it's impacting your future, your quality of life, and the quality of life here in America, by the way.
I've had someone ask before what qualifies you guys to talk about any of this stuff, and well, we'll tell you real quickly.
Because what we're saying makes sense.
that does as well, and we're telling people truth.
Yep.
My name is Charles Vance. I'm senior pastor at Empowered Church in Barboursville, West Virginia. Have been for 21 years, and at the same time own 20-some pieces of real estate. We just do a little bit of stuff. We do some other things in business because the Bible tells us to be kings and priests unto God,
yes.
Which means that we take care of spiritual things and natural things. We rule over them both. Prior to that, owned a construction company. We did upscale homes and small businesses in this area, and you own Cornerstone Asset Metals.
I'm a chief strategist and an analyst, and I've had multiple financial licenses dealing in retirement accounts, commodities. We are nothing but refiners of the raw material and metals and minters, and we are here to provide for the body of Christ not just knowledge and analysis of things, Charles, from what really is going on and not what the world's giving you, but also provide the actual resources.
Now, you don't have to be a Christian to do business with you guys.
No, but predominantly, most people that are doing business with us are people in the spirit. And I mean, they're hearing,
in tune with things,
they're hearing from God. They're serious about God. There are those that are arguing the concept of what we say, but most of the people that seem to be believing and seeing what's coming are those that are in the Word.
And we're not talking about short-term things.
We're
not talking about the title of this program is Wealth Transfer.
Right.
And we're talking about wealth moving from hand to hand, moving from one individual or for the ownership of one to the ownership of another.
And I mean, that can happen in a short period of time, I suppose.
It can.
Actually, I predict that this probably will, but even silver in just the last 10 years, Charles, for those that have been in it, are up 400% or 500% from where it was. Those that have stayed in currency are down 40%. So, people can say what they want, but most Americans are very, short term, and this isn't short term. If you were in this for the big picture, you would already been doing the right thing in investing in God's world. You'd be well off today.
And that's true with everything that we call them God products. It's things that God has
Give
made.
us dominion over.
Exactly, the earth and the products of the earth, silver, gold, gasoline, food, water, all of that stuff. Whoever thought 20 years ago we'd be buying water to drink?
Whoa, but look at the West.
I wouldn't have.
Look at the West. Look at all of California. We're in droughts. We're in such a drought out there. If they don't improve the conditions, you're going to have migration because we're going to get it if we don't watch it. That's a big deal.
So we just need to constantly be prepared with things. And I've had people say, well, I don't have any money to invest. Well, you've got some money to invest because you're driving a car or have a bicycle or you have something. And I just encourage, people, you sell individual coins if people want to buy them.
We do.
People can go to their local pawn shop and buy silver and gold
something.
coins.
I just encourage, if anything. Yes, we encourage people
for long term.
Yes, encourage them. Just start putting something in a bag, in a box. Do something. It doesn't matter. Just have something. These currency notes won't last. There will be a compromise. We will get something new.
I just don't want to see the body of Christ kind of get caught in the
Well,
middle.
we talked in the last month and a half or so, we talked about the history of currency, and it's always inflated, and then
changed and collapsed.
Or changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're doing it again right now. Matter of fact, it's happening.
And people that are holding currency as an investment or for a retirement benefit always end up losing because inflation has been called the hidden tax, and it really is a hidden tax on people.
And my guess is, we've been in this for 40 years, okay? And in 40 years, this dollar standard. And people are just unaware of the level of deception that has been placed on that. And they hoard a lot of currency when this currency has lost a lot of value, and they don't know what to do, though. And they see the manipulation being done on this stuff, and they're like, oh, why would you want to do that? But long-term wise, this is still up far more, and this is still down far more. So it's because it's like this. That's what's going on.
Yeah, this is staying the same. The silver, the gold, the tangible assets. The same thing is happening with real estate. They've manipulated the real estate market, but the essence is if you bought real estate 10 years ago and you still have it, it's worth more than it was 10 years ago.
Or if anything, real estate is something longer term, but it is. You know what, you hold on to it, you pass it down to your generations. Look at the families who've benefited from generational transfer.
Absolutely.
That's what we're saying. This is generational transfer. We've been talking about the petrodollar, and the petrodollar is so vital because the petrodollar means we made an agreement with Saudi Arabia in the 70s to exchange military protection. Saudi Arabia agreed to price all oil in American dollars. The world needed to use dollars to buy oil. Therefore, more demand for dollars meant higher quality of life for Americans. 40-some years later, we're saying this is in extreme jeopardy to the point where we actually may lose our grip on the dominance of the petrodollar. And if that happens, these trillions of dollars we've printed start coming home are going to bring extraordinary inflation, potentially hyperinflation, if not managed. And so the petrodollar, what's going on now, what we're explaining, is so important to understand because something is coming. 2008 was the beginning, and something else is down the road. And I believe the petro is part of that. And you can see globally why, when you look at Ukraine, Syria, what you're seeing in the news is not the actual underlying reasoning. So let's start in the petrodollar, Charles. Let's do this. Let's start this off and refresh for those who have not seen it. A video about what the petrodollar is so we can go right into the meat of the Russia-China dominance in this alliance and why we better be concerned.
It's a term millions of Americans don't know, petrodollar. But the petrodollar system is the fabric that right now holds our economy together. The dollar became the world's reserve currency in 1944 at the end of World War II. Before World War II, the British pound held that role. Now, the dollar became the most important currency in the world, thanks to the U.S. having more gold and power than any other nation. But August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon detached the U.S. dollar from the gold standard. The U.S. dollar no longer had gold as its backing. So what to do? In order to keep the dollar from crashing, because it was no longer attached to gold, the U.S. government attached the dollar to something else. Between 1972 and 1974, the U.S. government completed a series of agreements with Saudi Arabia to create the petrodollar system. Every barrel of oil sold by the Saudis had to be in dollars. Saudi Arabia was chosen because of its vast petroleum reserves and its dominant influence in OPEC, and the rest of the world followed suit. So the dollar, no longer tied to gold, but is now tied to oil. So how does it work? Well, it's pretty simple. If Italy wants to buy oil from Kuwait, it would have to purchase U.S. dollars on the foreign exchange market first to pay for that oil. Dollars for oil is a big reason foreign countries keep dollars in their reserves. Part of the reason we sell so many bonds around the world to finance our debt. So what if? What if another country wanted the same kind of world power over oil the United States has had for 38 years? Well, in order to do that, they would have to have huge gold reserves, a booming economy, and consume enough oil to warrant unhinging petroleum from the dollar into another currency. Enter China. What our media will barely talk about, the Chinese have now entered into 11 international agreements to trade products, including oil, without using dollars. China now has a currency swap deal with Brazil, Japan, Australia, Russia, and Iran. And get this, the deal with Iran, which produces crude oil but they don't refine any, It's just junk for oil trade. Because of UN sanctions on Iran, U.S. dollars cannot be used to buy oil from Iran. But that doesn't mean that Iran isn't selling oil, because they are. Goods including wheat, soybean meal, and consumer products are being traded by China and India for oil. One more thing here. For 38 years, the Saudis have protected the petrodollar, but that could change. The world's largest oil refinery is now under construction in Saudi Arabia, and it's being built by, you guessed it, the Chinese. China now actually imports more oil from Saudi Arabia than the United States does.
Now, this is the groundwork. What he said is the groundwork of what we're trying to get across. This is playing out dynamically in Ukraine, in Syria, and as we're talking about here, the company that controls it. Now, the agreements he just talked about, if I can, Stephen, I know I'm kind of throwing a curveball here. If we could pull up image 21, I don't know if we deleted it. If we do have it, let's show that arrangement again, because what he just told you, it started in 1971, when we had all the gold before that, and then what got all this started was that image right there of a relationship we had. And what it was is the beginning of fiat fake money, protection of oil in dollars. That was the one. I'm sorry. Then let's go to the next one. Let's try that one right there. Shows you the demand for dollars and the cost of living. Yes. And then let's try out 23. That's it. Oil producing right there, the agreement. There's our president. There's the Saudi king. There is when this started. That's the image right there. What he was just talking about. You can take that off. That's when we came off of gold and got into this fake fiat world. This is so important because our future is riding on the outcome of the petrodollar and what's going on globally. Our dollar dominance is coming to an end. It's all over the globe. Half the world's population is already getting away from the dollar slowly. Now, many people think it's 20 years down the road. We believe it's going to be unbelievably quick, and it's going to happen overnight. You're going to wake up one night, and it's going to be changed in a way you never thought possible and never thought could happen. So for those that have IRAs to protect, 401ks, savings, those that are in currency, be cautious. Get information, register on the website, give us a call. We'll help guide you through this information, educate you. This package is loaded with data on those 11 agreements he spoke about and other factors that'll help educate you in how simply and easy it is to roll over to a precious metals IRA so you can be protected in the long haul in God's money. Because what he's talking about there is the beginning of everything we know is in how it's going to change.
Terry, is one of the reasons that the U.S. currency, which is through the Federal Reserve Bank, is one of the reasons that that currency is going to be downplayed at some point is because of the World Bank, the IMF, the ISB?
Well, what that is what you just described is the Western Alliance. The World Bank, the IMF, is the West.
Okay, now they're controlling the West right now.
They're controlling technically the world, but yes, they're controlling the West.
Kind of like an oversight bank.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, a central bank for that West.
The Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. The IMF and the World Bank is technically the United Nations thing.
They're kind of people that get money to third world governments.
Yep, and it's control. The IMF is basically a collection of 27 or so, more than that now I think, nations that put money in. But the point is, it's Western.
Okay.
So the IMF and all of this other stuff, these guys are of the West.
So the Federal Reserve Bank, are they the Eastern people? Is that
no,
pretty
the
much?
Federal Reserve Bank is the United States.
Okay.
The IMF and the World Bank is the West. The East is the BRICS Bank.
Okay.
In the BRICS settlement,
So we're kind of just, the U.S. is sort of just by themselves when it comes to that.
Well, no, England, Europe.
Okay.
We're all tied together. When I say West, I say Europe, England, Canada.
Okay.
We're all in it together. One goes down, we all go down. The Spanish banks go down, the French banks go down. French banks go down, the English go down. The English go down, the Americans go down. We're all in it. That's why it's the West versus the East. The East being the Middle East, Russia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and all across. But remember, that's half the population. And
Sure.
they used to be more, You can't say tribal, but they used to be really poor and detached, put it that way.
Do they have a central bank as we know it?
Absolutely, everybody does now.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone
so
does
all
have
of those
a central
nations
bank.
have a central bank. Do
Yes.
they have an oversight bank that is
Yes.
watching over the entire group of banks, nations?
No.
Okay.
No.
So if they develop that,
They're already doing it.
so they're going to be in stiff competition with the West.
They're already in stiff competition, and it's all starting with energy. They know, because they all need energy. They need energy to survive. Remember, this is about, you can't function, build an economy, or do any change in your structure of things without energy. You need energy.
Sure.
You need to run your businesses, you need electricity, you need to run machines, you need energy. So without energy, nothing starts. But India, China, as we've shown in the past, India's economy is growing. Europe, Germany is the largest economy of Europe. Europe needs Russian energy. That's controlled by Gazprom. 90%.
What is that? Say it again.
Gazprom, Gazprom,
Okay.
is the main energy company of Russia, and they supply 90% of, or were 90% of their contracts right now. This is so important. 90% of Gazprom contracts and agreements are now in a de-dollarization mode. Wow. Meaning, and we pushed them here, mind you, all these sanctions on Russia are forcing this to happen. We are forcing this, which is kind of weird. I would have approached it differently from a back door, but apparently we want to just stick it right down the throat. 90% of Gazprom contracts now, because of sanctions, are in de-dollarization, meaning they're now accepting yuan, we're accepting renminbi, the ruble, and they're going to develop the Eurasian currency, which is so important. Now, they're also using euros, but the point is they're getting out of the dollar. That's not what we, well, unless we're doing it on purpose, which doesn't make sense, that's not what we wanted here. But because Gazprom does this, we're now putting ourselves in jeopardy of losing the petrodollar. Now, go to image 26, and if you don't think Russia and China, here's what people were saying. Russia and China, they can't be it. They can't do it. It can't be. It can't be, they say. Russia, China, these energy deals, these relationships. But image 26 is where we'll start this whole program off, and we're going to run down from there. Image 26 is not that it can be, but it is done, because the leaders have signed the deal. There's a $400 billion gas deal Russia and China has signed. And that gas deal is putting this whole thing in perspective because it's being done in their own currency. It's not being done in the dollar. It was being done in the dollar, but it's being done in their own currency now. So image 26, if we could do it, Stephen, if that's possible. Yep. Okay. That's the Russian leaders. Oh, we didn't get that. I'm so sorry, Stephen. We didn't do that. They signed the deal and agreement. We showed them shaking hands. That's my bad there, too. But let's do this. It's 27 is how it followed up. This 27 is where we got it from. Gazprom pipelines. This is the demand that we had. This is the reliance now, mind you. Look at that imagery there. This is how the West, Europe, is relying on Gazprom and Russian energy. If you notice from the left, Finland, and then you keep going down and you see the Czech Republic and Italy and Greece and Turkey, Germany. All of those are percentages, some of them 100% reliant on Russian energy. That right there is your image of how bad Europe needs Russia. So that's very, very important to understand.
Now, are you saying all of these guys were trading with petrodollars at some point?
These were all petrodollars, but we're forcing, you could take that off now, but that is so vital. That image right there is showing you how reliant the West is on Russian energy. What I'm saying is the West is trying to maneuver away from Russia reliance. Ukraine, Syria, is all, the Middle East wars are all about getting that reliance of energy away from Russia and taking the natural gas out of Qatar, bringing it up through Syria and going across to Europe, bypassing Russia. This whole thing is about knocking Russia out of the supplier for European energy. Russia's not going to have it. And Syria is the linchpin. Syria is the region that the energy pipelines must travel through, coming from Iran, which is Iran, China, Russia, and then coming down from Qatar, which is down by Saudi Arabia. Syria, the pipelines have to travel through Syria. And Syria is being backed up heavily by, right, Russia and Iran because of the energy control. We are trying to take Syrian leadership down. It has nothing to do with gassing his people and everything else. Matter of fact, you'd be stunned if you realize who really did the gassing. But it's really about energy. We are trying to get, Qatar is trying to get, they're one of the largest natural gas suppliers in the world, believe it or not, third largest in the world. And they have a pipeline they're trying to build up through Syria into Europe. And if we can succeed, and of course Israel and others will jump into there, Egypt will jump in. If we succeed, the energy Europe needs can come from those regions. And Qatar is a big ally of the United States. Yemen, Qatar, that's where a lot of our military is. Then we don't need Russia, and we can knock out Russia and Iran and all of them from supplying energy to Europe. Right now, Russia has control over Europe. So this is the chess game we're seeing. And if you don't think that's important to your standard of living for the future, if you don't think that's important to the dollar, understand what this means to the currency note and how it's going to impact your retirement, your 401k, your IRA, your savings, your standard of living. So for those that have IRAs to protect, give us a call, register on this website. We will send this package out loaded with information on exactly what we're talking about, economics of the United States and why the dollar is challenged, and how simply and easy it is to roll over into a physical precious metals IRA that nobody has control over, but yet will gain tremendous value when this dollar turns.
Now, there's people probably should know that there's no government penalty when you roll over an IRA to a precious metal IRA.
No, that's
right?
a good point. No, there's not.
Because a lot of times people think, well, the government's going to get a bunch of my stuff, but they're not going to do that.
No, matter of fact, there's only a small fee to establish the IRA, and then you just have to buy the metal. So no, there's no consequence, no tax consequence for rolling over into a precious metals IRA. But the nice thing is you're not tied to the stock market. You're not tied to the bond market. You're not relying on currency. Be cautious when this overnight loses value. Yes, it's going up right now. Don't be short term. It's going up. The metals have gone down in prices, but don't be fooled. Deception is whose? Right. Lucifer's, right? Spirits of Antichrist. So as we look at Gazprom, you see how Europe is dependent on Russia. Russia and China are determined to take out the petrodollar because it's about control. They're tired of America dominance. So, and remember, this is all about, not political, this is about we the people being protected. So when this shift from west to east, east to west happens, we have the wealth transfer coming to us, not away from us. Now look at image 28. Image 28, this is the natural gas, mind you. This is the future expansion of Russia's natural gas. The yellow up there shows you from where Russia is now and the routes going down into China, going into Eastern Europe, and going down. Now the dark blues is China, India, and then over into the Middle East there. That's Saudi Arabia. And then look down on the left there, you see the United States and South America. Those were future expansion routes, new import routes for liquid natural gas. Russia was supplying the world with this. This is what their expansion plan was. And then, of course, the yellow ones are pipelines going through now. This is vital to understand. That right there is a control map of Russia's plan to provide energy that everybody needs. And of course, in doing so, they were going to take down the petrodollar to do that. You can take that off. Why is that important? Russia and China, again, are trying to take down the petrodollar. And this is the plan they had, but now we're at a definitive line in the sand. I even saw something the other day where the Pope said we're really in a kind of a World War III status already, which I can understand what he's talking about. all of these little wars going on, Ukraine, Syria, all this, is all because of everything I'm showing you. Go to image 29. This is known as the South Stream pipeline. On the right is Russia. That pipeline is being proposed right now to come out of Russia there in the waterway over to that area there of Europe, where it would then stream up into Europe. That pipeline is in direct competition with the new pipeline being built by Qatar and them. Don't underestimate that this is the plan around Ukraine. Ukraine is an undetermined element. So this South Stream pipeline is what they're trying to use to get around that. Now show image 30. Image 30 there is, now there's another picture there of the South Stream pipeline on the blue line. How they want to come out of Russia and then go over to the Eastern European areas and then around and out. Now look at the red line. The red line is known as the Nabucco, and I may be saying that wrong, forgive me, gas pipeline. That one goes through Turkey, but that one has to come from Qatar up through the Middle East, and we'll show images of that. It has to go through Syria, where you're seeing on the right side there, that is Syria. It has to go through Syria, through Turkey, up into Europe. That's how the red line is how they're trying to get around the Russian energy dominance, and they can do it if they can get Syria out of the way.
Are either of those pipelines being built currently, or are they just in plans?
Currently, well, the Nabucco is halfway.
Oh, it's already halfway
Oh,
built.
yeah. The South Stream is already in process too. But the key is the pipelines in Ukraine are already providing the energy to Europe. But Ukraine is in this big argument because Ukraine's not part of Eurasia. Ukraine's not part of NATO. The reason you're seeing this happen in Ukraine is real simple. The West overthrew the government. It's all about that pipeline. The South Stream is going to come in the other way, and the Nabucco is the challenge. And next week, we're going to expand on that Nabucco, and you're going to understand why you're seeing in the news what you're seeing. Remember, your retirements, IRAs, and 401ks are in jeopardy because what you're seeing here is playing out the demise of the dollar in petrodollar control. Get registered, give us a call, get information. It'll help you and easily and simply roll over your IRAs to precious metals IRAs so you can be protected when this happens. And remember, Jesus Christ, make him center of your heart and he'll come. God bless you.
You can watch these programs on demand 24/7 at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. If you know someone that's not getting this programming, tell them about it. We'll be back right here next week, same place, same time, for more of the Wealth Transfer.